discuss paper 2, prelims. So now we are going to discuss a prelim paper from KZN for 2023, and we are also going to discuss prelim paper from Western Cape. So now those are the two papers that we are going to discuss as a preparation towards our paper 2 that you are going to write, guys, on Wednesday. Okay, right. So now we are going to discuss paper 2, business studies. So now you remember in this paper, it's either you go big or go small or go back home. Okay, right. So now let's check section A. So now we are going to roll in this manner. We are going to deal with section A and KZN, and also we are going to deal with section A and Western Cape. So now also in the same manner, when we move on to question 2 or section B, then we are also going to use the same approach. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's go through the question given. So now question 1, various options are provided as possible answers to the following questions. So now you're expected to choose the answer and write only the letter A to D next to the question number. So now you have been faced with 1.1.1 up to 1.1.5. So now the expectation is to write the answers inside your answer book. As an example is actually given here, that you only select a letter. You don't write the given set of the definitions on those options. Okay, right, grade 12. So now it says in particular 1.1.1, it says the holders of a dash are regarded as creditors of a company. So now in this regard, our appropriate answer is going to be B. Okay, right. So now let's move on to the next question. We have 1.1.2. Employees may receive these benefits if they are unable to work for more than 14 days without receiving a salary. So now that is C as the option. Okay, right. So now let's move on to the next question. The next question is question 1. It's 1.3. So 1.3 reads as follows. Tammy traders broke down the problem into smaller parts that are easier to solve separately. So this problem solving step is actually known as identify the problem, which is our option D. Okay, right. So now let's check 1.1.4. Pillar printers dealt with the right to dash by keeping simple chronic illness confidential. So now in this regard, our appropriate answer is going to be a B, which is privacy. Okay, right. So now let's move on to the next question, which is 1.1.5. It says the businesses should not only focus on revenues, but should also invest in what corporate social investment project. So now this are linked with the dash factor in bottom line. So our appropriate answer in this regard is going to be C. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's move on to 1.2. So 1.2 reads as follows. Complete the following statement by using the words in the list below. Write only the word next to the question number. So now also you're expected to answer from question 1.2.1 to 1.2.5 in your answer book. Okay, right. So now management, quota social and ethical, corporate social responsibility, economic and professional leadership, social responsibility, and road accident fund. Okay, right. So now 1.2.1, it reads as for the amount that can be claimed by Nivel from dash for the loss of income is limited by legislation. So now that is going to be a RAV. That is going to be a RAV. Okay, grade 12. That is going to be a RAV. Okay, right. So now, grade 12s, let's actually move on to the second question, which is 1.2.2. It reads as follows. Tando is in a desk position as he always tries to find more efficient ways of completing the task. So now it means that Utando is on the level of managing meant. So now our appropriate answer in this regard is going to be management. Okay, right. So now let's check 1.2.3. The ethical viewpoint that says every organization has an obligation to benefit the society as a whole is known as dash. So now that is going to be social responsibility. This is nothing but social responsibility. Okay, right. So now let's check 1.2.4. It reads as follows. Did the traders promote dash rights by providing clean water and healthcare to their employees? So it means that they were addressing the issue of social. Okay, right. So now let's check 1.2.5. The abuse of work time is an example of dash practice. This is nothing but unprofessional practice, business practice. This is unprofessional business practice. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's move on to 1.3. So now 1.3 reads as follows. Choose a description from column B that matches a term in column A. Write only the letter A to J next to the question number. So it means that next to 1.3.1 to 1.3.5 in your answer book. So in the same manner, whenever you are dealing with this kind or this type of questions where you're supposed to match the given set of concepts in column A with the description, the functions, the characteristics, or the features in column B. First, you should always make sure that you go through the concepts given and also create a picture so that you can actually be in the position to master this type of a question. Okay, right. So now under column A, we are given partnership as 1.3.1. The second one, we have insurable risk. The third one, we have flip chart. Then the fourth one, we have accountability. Then 1.3.5, we have decision making. So now let's check on the side of the description of functions given. So what do we have? Printed information provided to the audience to accompany presentation. Board should develop remedial programs to protect the environment. Various alternatives are considered before deciding on the best one. Insurance companies decide on the likelihood of event, decide if they want to insure the risk. So name of the business ends in INC according to the law. Alternative solutions are generated and critically evaluated. Then insurance companies cannot evaluate or calculate the profitability of the risk and cannot work out the premiums. So now a large paper, but to that each page can be turned over. Board should ensure that the company's ethics are effectively implemented. So now the last one, no legal requirements are regarding the name of the business. Okay, right. So now let's check 1.3.1. So from the given set of options, our appropriate answer in this regard for partnership is going to be J, where no legal requirements regarding the name of the company is going to be our appropriate answer. So it means that for this question, the appropriate answer is going to be J. Okay, right. So now let's check insurable risk. For insurable risk, our appropriate answer is going to be D, where insurance companies decide on the likelihood of an event if they want to insure actually the risk. So now that is the only option that is pretty close to the concept that is unstudied. So now let's check the flip chart. So now the flip chart, normally we actually check a large pair of paper bound so that each page can be turned over. So it means that our appropriate answer for this one is going to be H. So now H in this regard is going to be our appropriate answer. So now let's move on to 1.3.4, where we actually have accountability. So now accountability is in line with a board should ensure that the company's ethics are effectively implemented. So it means that the appropriate answer in this regard is going to be I. So now the one for decision making, we are actually going to check out the various alternatives are considered before deciding on the best alternative to be taken. So now it means in this regard, our appropriate answer is going to be C. Okay, right. So now we are actually done with the question one for KZN. Now let's visit question one for Eastern Cape. So now, guys, as I did explain to you before that whenever you are dealing with this particular type of questions, always make sure that you apply elimination method, where you go through each and every set of questions given before you can actually jump onto answers. Because some of you find that in that particular type of question that carries 40 marks, you only know 10 marks. The rest of our marks, which is 30 marks, you find that you don't know them at all. So, but for the fact that you only know 10 marks out of 40, you made a mistake, or you make a mistake of attempting to such questions. So now make sure that before you actually start attempting to any question, you go through all the set of questions given, and then you add the marks for the questions that you think you are going to master. Okay, right. So now let's check what Western Cape. So now Western Cape question paper, we are also going to check section A in the same manner as we did in KZN paper. Okay, right. So now let's check 1.1. So now it reads as follows. Various options are provided as possible answers to the following questions. So now choose the answer and write only a letter A to D. So now this is an example of the options are given, and then you are actually given the variables from A to D. So now if you actually check towards the end of the question, you are even given an example on how best you can approach this particular type of questions. So now some of you grade 12s, you make a mistake of selecting a variable or a letter. Then after that, you find that you also give the description of that option that you have chosen. So now that one is totally not allowed, because it means that you'll be failing to follow the instructions. Also bear in mind that whenever you follow the instruction, it means that you are mastering the examination, because following of instruction is actually considered as part of the examination. Okay, right. So now 1.1 reads as follows. Jabu, the team leader at group projects, uses a dash leadership style when implementing decisions without consulting employees. So now if you still remember, there are different set of this leadership styles. So now the moment a leader doesn't consult anyone whom he is working with, it means that this leader is applying autocratic leadership style. So that is why our answer is going to be D. Okay, right. So now let's check 1.1.2. So 1.1.2 reads as follows. Cezanne and Paul attorneys are jointly and severally liable for the death of the business. This form of ownership is considered as a partnership. So now it means our appropriate answer is going to be B. Okay, right. So now let's move on to 1.3. Nikki handled the feedback session after his presentation in a professional manner when he kept his answers short and to the point. So now our appropriate answer in this regard is going to be D. Okay, right. So now let's move on to 1.1.4. Masande Ltd has identified Dash as one of their corporate social investment focus areas. So now it means in this regard, they were actually focusing on rural development. So now our appropriate answer in this regard, when you apply your elimination method going through each and every set of option given. So now you see that the appropriate one or the best alternative is going to be A. Okay, right. So now let's check 1.1.5. So now the process a manager uses to choose the best solution is known as decision making, which is our option C. Okay, right. So now let's move on to 1.2 grade 12. So now 1.2 reads as follows: complete different statements by using the words provided in the list below. Write only the words next to the question numbers 1.2.1 to 1.2.5 in the answer book. So now you should always make sure that you go through all these set of terms or concepts given inside this grid to identify or just familiarize yourself with the concepts given. And also don't forget that you should always come up with a bigger picture on whatsoever concept that you did come across. Okay, right. So now let's check 1.2.1. Good insurance Ltd applied dash when goods were insured by freight traders for more than its market value. So now in this regard, our appropriate answer is going to be reinstatement. So now reinstatement is going to be our appropriate answer for this particular type of question. Okay, right. So now let's check 1.2.2. So Stephen, it says manager at YX Traders uses dash to display sales figures in columns and rows during this presentation to management. So now it means that this gentleman, when he was actually administering his presentation, he made sure that he uses tables. Okay, so now appropriate answer is going to be tables. Okay, right. So now let's check 1.2.3. A business that appoints an interpreter for meetings is addressing dash as a diversity issue. So it means that they are using this as a what? As a language. So meaning our appropriate answer in this regard is going to be language. Okay, right. So now let's check 1.2.4. Kelvin Logistics deals with dash as a type of unethical businesses practice by submitting all tax returns to South African revenue service on time. So now this is going to be tax evasion. Remember that those people who always make sure that they don't declare all the assets that they have so that South African revenue service won't be in the position to tax them as expected. They are going to be taxed less amount of money while they are in possession of a lot of assets. So that's what we mean by tax evasion and tax avoidance. So by tax avoidance, it's when a person totally dilly-dallies or dodges to pay tax without even declaring the assets that they own. Okay, so now let's move on to the next question. And the next question in this regard is going to be 1.2.5. Managers deal with dash personalities by allowing them sufficient time to speak without intimidating others. So now this is nothing but aggressive. Aggressive is our appropriate answer in this regard. Okay, right. So now let's move on to 1.3. So now 1.3 reads as follows. Choose a description from column B that matches a term in column A. Write only the letter next to the question numbers 1.2.1 to 1.3.5 in the answer book. As an example is actually given on your behalf. You only select the appropriate letter without writing the whole description that is given on that particular question. So now if we check our column A, we have the benchers, road accident fund, state-owned companies, corporate social responsibility, ethical behavior. But on our column B, we have upholding moral standards when doing business, that is our A. Our B, improves the image of the business and increases profits. Then C, issued to raise own capital from the shareholders. So now D, compensate pedestrians for injuries sustained due to negligent drivers. And then E, losses must be made by the directors. F, issued to raise borrowed capital from the public. Then G, improves the standard of living of the community without return on investments. So now H, losses must be made by the taxpayers. So I, upholding the code of conduct of a specific profession. So now J, compensate employees for injuries sustained in the workplace. So now let's check the best options of matching our column A concepts. Okay, right. So now the bank charts in this regard, we are actually going to check issued to raise borrowed capital from the public. So now it means our appropriate answer in this regard is going to be F. So now let's check 1.3.2, where we have compensate pedestrians for injuries sustained due to negligent drivers. So our appropriate answer in this regard is going to be D. So 1.3.3, state-owned enterprises, then our appropriate answer is going to be H, where we check actually what losses must be made by the taxpayers. So now it means in this regard our appropriate match is going to be H. Okay, right. So now let's move on to 1.3.4. So now corporate social responsibility. So in this regard, you are going to check it improves the image of the business and increases profits. So it means that our appropriate answer in this regard is going to be B. So now let's check 1.3.5, ethical behavior. So now the one for ethical behavior, we are going to check upholding moral standards when doing business. So it means in this regard, our appropriate answer is going to be A. Okay, right, grade 12. So now in this juncture, we are done with our section A's for both papers. For the paper that was written in September this year by learners who are residing in KZN, and also another paper that was written by learners who do reside in Western Cape. So now those are the two papers that were written in September prelims for Eastern Cape Province and KZN province. So now let's move on to section B now. So whenever, guys, you are doing your revisions, make sure that you use the examination pad, where you are going to evaluate yourself whether you understand the concepts or not. And also you must know what is expected of you before you can actually jump onto answers. Okay, right. So now section B, if you still remember, guys, you are always faced with three questions, and the expectation is always to select only two questions, of which one question carries 40 marks, and now all in all they sum up to 80 marks. Okay, right. So now let's check 2.1 in particular. So now name any four types of preference shares. So now we have many types of preference shares, and also you must know when you talk of preference shares, we are referring to which type of shareholding. So now if you still remember, in a business we have different levels or different types of shareholding. So now this one of preference shares, we refer to those or that part of our business ownership where what the investor has actually invested a large sum of money. That is why they are mostly preferred. They are mostly preferred because they have invested large sums of money. Okay, right. So now we have the list of them. We have participating preference shares. We have non-participating preference shares. We have cumulative preference shares. We have non-cumulative preference shares. We have redeemable preference shares. We have non-redeemable preference shares. We have convertible preference shares. We have non-convertible preference shares. So now, all in all, we have 8 different types of preference shares holding, but the question only requires 4 types of preference shareholding. So now we're saying that we have participating preference shares. We have participating preference shares holding, and then also we have cumulative. We have cumulative preference shareholding, and also we have redeemable. We have redeemable. We also have redeemable preference shareholding. And lastly, we also have what you call convertible. So now, if you still remember, these are a preference shareholding. We have a participating, and we also have non-participating. And we also have cumulative. That is what that goes together with non-cumulative. We also have a redeemable that goes together with non-redeemable. And lastly, we have convertible, which goes together with non-convertible. Okay, right, great thoughts. So now let's move on to 2.2. Identify the type of leadership theories applicable to Olifant Ltd in each of the statements below. So now, great thoughts. Remember, these action verbs, they mean a lot. When a question says identify, you must know what is expected of you. Some of you take these action verbs very light, not knowing that these action verbs, they do have a serious meaning. They do have a serious message. So, okay, right. So now let's check 2.2.1. They adopted this theory during a period in which they were experiencing radical change in the workplace. So now this is going to be transformational theory. Transformational theory. Okay. Then we have 2.2.2. The management applied different leadership styles based on the context of the crisis. So this is going to be situational leadership. Situational leadership. Okay, right. So now this is going to be situational leadership theory. Situational leadership theory. Okay, right. So now grade 12, let's check 2.3. So now 2.3 reads as follows. Explain the meaning of excess as the insurance concept. So now it means that if you are supposed to explain the meaning of excess as a insurance concept, then you should also check the allocation of marks. And when you check the allocation of marks, we have 6 marks. So now the expectation is that we come up with 3 points, meaning 1 point carries as 2 marks. Okay, right. So now we are actually going to check what we are going to check. The amount excess is the amount that the insured agrees to pay upfront when he or she takes out an insurance policy. And also, we are saying that excess payment prevents the insured from claiming for minor damages. And also, we actually check that the higher the excess amounts, keep the insurance premium lower and discourage fraud. Okay, right. So now we're saying that excess payment prevents the insured. It prevents the insured from claiming for minor damages. From claiming for minor damages. Okay, right. So now also, we said that higher excess amounts higher excess amounts. Keep the insurance premium lower. Keep the insurance premium lower and discourage fraud. And discourage fraud. And also, we said that because of 6 months, we also have to include the third point where an excess is considered as the amount that the insured agrees to pay upfront when he or she takes out an insurance policy. Okay, right. So now let's move on to 2.4. 2.4 reads as follows. Differentiate between over-insurance and under-insurance. So now in this regard, we are going to what we are going to give 1.1 point. Why? Because of what 4 marks given. So now here we are going to check the issue of under insurance, and in this regard we are going to check the issue of over in insurance. Okay, right. So now under insurance, in most cases we check that the insurer can choose to under over insurance. The insurer can actually choose to reinstate the insured, but under insurance, the insurer will implement the average clause to determine the amount that will be paid. Okay, right. So now we're saying that here the insurer will implement the average clause to determine the amount that will be paid. To determine the amount to be paid. Under over insurance, we are saying that the insurer can choose to reinstate the insured to reinstate the insured. Okay, right. So now let's move on to 2.5. 2.5 reads as follows. Read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Candy Distributors has made huge profits in 2002 in 2022. So the management of our CD decided to invest the extra profits in a type of investment that can easily be converted to cash. So now CD is also aware of the functions of Johannesburg Security Exchange. Okay, right. So now 2.5.1 reads as follows. Name the investment decision vector that CD considered from the scenario above. So now what they have actually considered here is what we call liquidity. Okay, right. So now let's check 2.5.2. So now 2.5.2 reads as follows. Explain the functions of Johannesburg Security Exchange. So now one of the functions of Johannesburg Security Exchange is to facilitate electronic trading of shares, as well as enhance job creation and increases economic growth. Also, it serves as a barometer or indicator of economic conditions in South Africa. It also acts as a link between investors and public companies. Also, shares are valued and assessed by experts. Orderly market for securities serves as a disciplined market for securities. Okay. So now it's saying that shares are valued. Shares are valued. Shares are valued and assessed by experts. Shares are valued by experts. And also, we are saying that it regulates the market for dealing with shares. Regulates the market. Regulates the market for dealing with shares. Okay. Right. So now remember, this is what this we have what we have 6 marks. So it means that you are expected to come up with 3 points. And also we can say that it mobilizes the funds of insurance companies and other institutions, plans, researches, and advises on investment possibilities, as well as ensuring that the market operates in a transparent manner. It also encourages our short-term investment. Encourages short-term investment. Okay, right. So now let's move on to 2.6. So now 2.6 reads as follows. Explain how the following what criteria will contribute to the success and or failure of a personal liability company. So now you are going to check how this management can contribute towards the failure and also the success of the personal liability company. Okay, right. So now, creators, whenever you are faced with this type of questions, make sure that you don't jump onto answers, but what you understand, what is expected of you. Okay, so now this is how we are going to answer this particular type of questions. So now here you should have what? You should have success, and also you should have what? You should have the failure. Okay, right. So now let's check the management. How management can actually accelerate the success of the business, or how management can actually cause the business not to succeed at all. So now, creators, bear in mind that whenever we talk of success under business studies, we refer to a situation where a business is able to generate a profit. Okay, guys, so now we are on 2.6, so on management. So now we are going to check the success factors and the failure side on both concepts. So now we are going to check the success and as well as the failure. Okay, right. So now, if you still remember grade 12, whenever you talk of the success is in line with when a business is able to generate profit. Okay, right. So now, on the success factors, this company should always make sure that they managed by a competent board of directors who may be experts in their fields. So now here we are saying that it should be managed. It should be managed by board of directors that are actually skilled in that manner, and they should be experts. And also, when it comes to the failure of it, directors may not have a direct interest in the company, which can hamper growth and profit maximization. So now it means if they don't have any interest, so that is going to block the growth of the business. Okay, right. So now let's check out the division of profits. So now in this regard, under the success, we actually check that high profits and good returns to shareholders indicate the success of a company, which increases the value of the shares. So now we're saying that high profits and good returns to shareholders indicate the success of a company, which increases the value of shares. So, but now when it comes to the failure of the division of profits, we are saying that shareholders may sell their shares when dividends are very low, resulting in drop in share price. Okay, right. So now let's move on to 2.7. So now 2.7, we have what we have the recommendation in line with our demographic leadership style. So recommend situations in which democratic leadership style can be applied in the workplace. So now, this kind of leadership style, leaders normally take into account group members that are skilled and eager to share their ideas. So now a leader does not have all the information needed to make a decision, and employees have valued information to contribute. So now in this regard, cooperation is needed between a leader and a team. So decisions need to be looked at from several perspectives. So now in that regard, so small dynamic companies rely on innovative and creative ideas. Okay, right. So now we are saying that here group members are skilled and eager to share their ideas. And also, saying that cooperation is needed between a leader and a team. Between a leader and a team. And also, we are saying that decisions need to be looked at from several perspectives. Okay, right. So now let's check another question 2 from another question paper. What do we have? So now question 2 from this question paper, it reads as follows. In particular, 2.1, name any 3 examples of short-term insurance. So now, one of the examples of short-term insurance, we have the likes of property insurance. We also have money in transit. We also have theft. We also have burglary. We also have fire and the likes. So now let's check 2.2, outline aspects that should be considered when designing a multimedia presentation. Whenever designing multimedia presentation, start with the text, which forms the basis of the presentation. Then select the background to complement or enhance the text. Then choose images that may help to communicate the message. Create graphics to assist the information which is conveyed. Also, make sure that you actually add special effects such as sound, pictures, animation, so as to make it interesting for the audience. So now also use legible font and font size so that it is easy to read, and make sure that there are no language and spelling errors. Make sure you also go for very bright colors to increase the visibility. Okay, right. So now let's move on to 2.3. Read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Insal Enterprises invested an amount of 15,000 over a period of 2 years at 80% compound interest per year in a fixed deposit. Okay, right. So now in this regard, we are going to calculate what are the interest amount that Uzalo enterprise will receive after 2 years. So now show all your calculations. So now here we are going to use the formula where we actually have P being multiplied by 1 plus R then raised to power N. So now in this regard, we have R, which is 80%, and now 8% is equivalent to 0.08. Then we have we have what? We have our P. So now in this regard, our P is going to be 15,000. So now this is 15,000. Then our N is going to be 2. So now what you do, you just substitute from the given set of formula, where we say we have 15,000 multiplied by 1 plus 0.08, then raised to power 2. So now this is going to be equivalent to 15,000 multiplied by 1.08 raised to power 2. So now our appropriate answer in this regard is going to be 2,496. So now this is going to be 2,496. 496. So now this is our answer for question 2.3 calculations. Okay, right. So now let's move on to 2.4. Explain the importance of insurance for our businesses. So now we are going to check how important this insurance can be towards a different set of entities. So now businesses will be compensated for insurance losses, such as the destruction of property through fire, and also transfers the risk from the business to an insurance company or insurer, and as well as the transfer of risk is subject to the terms and conditions of the insurance contract. So also protects businesses against loss of stock or damages caused by natural disasters such as flood and the likes. Also, it takes into account the replacement costs for damaged machinery equipment are very high. Therefore, insurance can reduce such particular costs. So also it does protect businesses against losses due to death of a debtor. Okay, right. So now let's check our 2.5. Read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. So now perfect dealers. Emihle, the sales manager at Perfect Dealers, made a presentation to the board of directors. She distributed hard copies of the sales figures to them before the start of her presentation. So now, when we check 2.5.1, it reads as follows: identify the visual aid that Emihle used during her presentation. Also modified your answer by quoting from the scenario. So now grade 12s, you always hear me saying that take these action verbs into account, because sometimes you may find that if a question says identify, describe, differentiate, discuss, you don't know how to approach such. But remember, there was one of the lessons where I was going deeper in explaining the use of a different set of these action verbs. Okay, right. So now we are supposed to identify the visual aid that Emilia used during her presentation, and we are supposed to motivate our answer by quoting from the scenario. So now the appropriate answer in this regard, we are going to have our handouts. So now if you check our handouts, it goes together with the last sentence of the scenario where it says she distributed hard copies of the sales figures to them before the start of her presentation. So now this is the quoting. It means that for this naming of our handouts, you have already scored yourself 2 marks, and also for quoting, now you also score yourself 1 mark. So now all in all, under 2.5.1, you are going to be able to score yourself 3 marks. Okay, right. So now let's check out 2.5.2. Describe the positive impact of the visual aid identified in 2.5.1, meaning we are going to check the effect of the handouts. So now when it says what positive effect, it means that strictly you are only expected to come up with the positive effect, not taking into account the negative effect. Okay, right. So now meaningful handouts may be handed out at the start of the presentation so as to attract the attention of the audience. The moment the attention of the audience is actually attracted, then that gives what? That gives the encouragement for more of the participation from that particular audience. Okay, right. So now also it is so easy to update handouts with recent information. So notes may be compared with electronic slides so as to validate the accuracy of the information. Okay, right. So now you're saying that it is easy. It is easy to update handouts with recent information and developments, and notes may be compared with electronic slides so as to validate the accuracy of the information. Right. So now let's check what the difference between management and leadership. So now, in most cases, some of you guys, you make mistakes when it comes to the distinction between management and leadership. So now let's bear in mind that leaders are born, they are not trained. Leaders don't go to school to be trained to become a leader. They are born with such characteristics. But when it comes to management, most of these managers, they go to school to learn the tactics of how to supervise other people, or how work can actually be done on your behalf by other people. So now management, I'm going to give you guys the simple definition of management as well as the technical definition of management. When we talk of management, we refer to, in simple terms, we refer to getting work done by other people or getting work done through other people. But when it comes to the technical definition of it, management is a process of planning, organizing, leading and controlling organizational resources so as to achieve the set goal of that particular business. So, but now when it comes to leaders is where there is a direct or the influence from whosoever supervisor that is in charge. So now let's check under management. Management guides human behavior. Management guides human behavior, but when it comes to leadership, they don't guide human behavior, but they influences human behavior. One can actually ask, how is this possible? Under leadership, leaders, remember, they don't give a word to say, go do this, do that. They first to show you how they want things to be done. So now in that regard, if each and every task to be performed, they always give you direction. They always give you a lead. So now it means that you are going to be inspired. And the moment you are inspired, then you get the influence of adapting to the very same behavior, unlike management, where they just give a word or a command, and now we're supposed to follow. Okay, right. So now also let's check under management. Under management, we are saying that they normally communicate through management functions such as line function. So now when we talk of this line function, remember in business studies, when we talk of a word function, we normally refer to the different set of departments in a business. So now we have different set of department that normally perform different roles or different duties. Remember, we have the likes of a human resource department or function, where it actually deals with hiring and firing of employees. And we also have finance department. Finance department deals with the cash inflow and cash outflow in that particular entity. And then we also have purchasing functional management. This is what the department that normally focuses largely on purchasing or buying stock from different set of the suppliers. And remember, this purchasing function or purchasing department, they normally look for the suppliers with reasonable costs, and also the suppliers should be in the position to issue out the products or the stock of a higher quality. Okay, right. So now let's check on the side of the leadership. So now leadership, they normally innovate or encourage new ideas to create productivity. So now remember, under business studies, when we talk of innovation, we refer to different styles or different methodologies of producing goods and services. So now it means that in this regard, for a business to be innovative, they shouldn't only stick to one strategy, one technique, or one style of producing goods and services. They should engage in different set of styles whenever they produce goods and services. Okay, right. So now discuss how the following criteria could contribute to the success or failure of the public company. So now let's check how management and legislation can contribute to the success and a failure of a public company. Okay, right. So now, grade 12, if you are in the position to spot out most of the structure of these questions or the way these questions are asked, they are pretty or more similar to one another. So it means that whenever you are doing your studies, you should make sure that you have the exam pad, and you should be writing on that particular exam pad, and then you refer to the corrections or the memorandum if it is given. So now I can actually advise you to visit different set of question papers. If you are dealing with a particular question, deal with that particular question throughout using different set of question papers written in different years. Okay, right. So now let's check the success of the management and the failure of the management. Then the success of the management, we are saying that the management of the company can improve since directors are accountable to shareholders. But now on the side of the failures, directors may not be motivated to work very hard because shareholders decide on the directors' remuneration or directors' compensation or directors' reward or directors' salaries and wages. Okay, right. So now let's move on to legislation. So now remember, when we talk of legislation in business studies, we actually refer to a set of rules and regulations that have been recently drafted by ANC in 1994 when they came to power, to make sure that those who have been disadvantaged by apartheid era or apartheid period, they are now catered for in an economy. They are not excluded. So it means that they came up with this legislation because they wanted to promote the issue of inclusivity. Okay, right. So now let's check under the success of legislation. So now the fact that it is 4 marks, it means that you are going to take 1 point for the success as well as 1 point for the failure. So now let's check on the success side. Procedures to form a public company have been simplified by the new Companies Act 71 of 2008. We are saying that procedures to form a public company have been simplified by the new Companies Act 71 of 2008. But now let's check on the side of failures. So now on the side of failures, formation procedures are time consuming or complicated or expensive, as many legal documents need to be prepared or submitted. We're actually saying that formation procedures are time consuming, complicated, expensive, as many legal documents need to be prepared or submitted. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's check 2.8 for this question paper, where it says suggest situations in which the laissez-faire or free reign leadership style can be applied in the workplace. So now these subordinates are experts and know that they want responsible for each and every action that is actually taking place in that particular business. And also the leader is very busy, and delegation of task will increase productivity. So team members need to be developed in terms of leadership skills. So now also employees are highly experienced and know more about the task that the leader wants them to perform. Okay, so now we are done with question 2s for both papers, grade 12s, and surely you have what you have actually learned a lot on how you must approach this kind of questions in business studies. Okay, right. So now let's move on to the question trees. So now question trees, I'm going to start with the first paper where it deals with the issue of conflicts. Remember, question 3, guys, for those people who are normally struggling with business studies, it is advisable to answer question 1, question 3, question 4, and question 6, only for people who are struggling with business studies. But for those people who are not struggling with business studies, they can answer other questions that are different from theirs. But the fact that you know very well that you have a problem with the subject, then I can advise you always to concentrate on question 3, 4, and 6. Okay, right. So now let's check 3.1. It says list any 2 causes of conflict in the workplace. So now conflict in the workplace, guys, remember it can be caused by different issues. So also what do we mean by conflict? Conflict, we refer to misunderstanding of ideas at the workplace. You find that you raise ideas at the workplace, but the fact that you don't understand one another's idea, then it end up people having some sort of differences. Okay, right. So now one of the causes of the conflict in the workplace can be limited business resources, can be also different goals, can also be different opinions, unfair workload, also unrealistic expectations, also ignoring rules and procedures, also unacceptable behavior, as well as poor communication, unclear responsibilities, distracted by personal objective, constant changes in the workplace, discrimination, lack of trust among workers, and the likes. So those are the list of the causes of conflict at the workplace. So now the fact that here you're actually asked to mention 2, then you're going to say also this can be unfair load, unfair workload. But remember, grade 12s, you are not only limited to this. Unfair workload. Okay, right. So we also have what different opinions. Also have different opinions. One can actually ask why these 2 points yet you told us that whenever we are answering business studies questions, when we have 2 points, it means that you are expected, if you have 2 marks, it means you are expected to come up with 1 point. No, it's because here the question is very directive. It says that list any 2. But if the question was not directive like this, then in that regard, would have come up with 1 point. Okay, right. So now let's check 3.2.1. So now 3.2.1 reads as follows. BC requested a panel of experts to research on customers' complaints without bringing them together. So now if you still remember, this is the problem solving technique where experts are actually being invited. And if you still remember, these experts shouldn't even be at the same place. They can still deal with questions wherever they are without bringing them together. And then that technique is called Delphi technique. Delphi technique. Okay, right. So now let's check 3.2.2. They also weigh up the positives and negatives to decide if the project is viable. So now this one is going to be force field analysis. Force field analysis. Force field analysis. Okay, right. So now let's check 3.3. Explain ways in which businesses can contribute time and effort in improving the well-being of employees. Okay, right. So now for businesses to improve the well-being of employees, they should always conduct team building sessions to improve employees' morale and also provide transport for employees who work usually long hours, as well as provide recreational facilities for employees. Okay, right. So one can actually ask why 3 points is because of 6 marks are given. So now we're saying that here provide recreational facilities, recreational facilities for employees. And also we are saying that it allows flexible working hours to enhance productivity and also provide for employees' participation in decision making that affects them, and also pay fair bonuses based on business earnings as acknowledgement for hard work and commitment. Okay, right. So now let's move on to 3.4. So now 3.4 discuss ways which businesses could create an environment that promote creative thinking in the workplace. So now let's check how businesses can create an environment that is conducive for creative thinking. Remember, creative thinking is when a person applies originality in terms of thinking. It's when a person is not conventional. You are not using a routine of a decision because you have seen someone using or taking the same decision. You are using the same. You are using the decision. You are using or you are taking the decision. You are taking. Why? Because you try to apply originality or think out of the box. Okay, right. So now we're saying that one of the ways in which businesses could create an environment that promote creative thinking in the workplace, encourage alternative ways of working or doing things, respond enthusiastically to all ideas and never let anyone feel less important, as well as emphasize the importance of creative thinking to ensure that all staff know management want to hear their ideas. Also train staff in an innovative technique so as to create problem solving skills. So also make sure that you provide a working environment conducive to creativity, free from distractions. Okay, so now remember grade 12, I told you whenever you are faced with 6 marks, the expectation is to come up with 3 points. So now we are saying that encourages alternative ways of working or doing things. Okay, right. So now let's check out 3.5. So 3.5 reads as follows. Honor Communications, OC, is a community-based radio station. OC deals with diversity by providing subsidized meals from the business canteen. They also offer employment opportunities to both males and females. So now identify 2 diversity issues addressed by OC. Modify your answer by quoting from the scenario. Okay, right, guys. So now let's check. Remember, when you quote from the scenario, you're expected to take the sentence as fully as it is. Okay, right. So now let's check here. We had been told that OC, this is sentence 1, this is sentence 2, this is sentence 3. So now OC deals with diversity by providing subsidized meal from the business canteen. So now this is nothing but poverty. This is poverty. And then this is what? This is sentence 2. Remember, you don't say sentence 2 when you write the sentence fully as it appears on the scenario. So now the last one, they say they also offer employment opportunities to both males and females. So now this is nothing but gender. So now this is going to be sentence 3. You take this as sentence 3 exactly the way it appears. Okay, right. So now let's check 3.6. Discuss the benefits of diversity in the workplace. So now in the workplace, if there is diversity that is being taken into account, so it means that diversity in the workplace improves the morale or motivation. Also, employees demonstrate greater loyalty to the business because they feel respected, accepted, and understood. So also, employees value each other's diversity and learn to connect or communicate across lines of difference. So now workforce diversity improves the ability of a business to solve problems or innovate or cultivate diverse markets. Okay, right. So now we're saying that here, diversity in the workplace improves morale or motivation. Okay, right. But remember, because of what 4 marks, you have to come up with 2 points. Remember, I gave you around 4 points in this question. Okay, right. So now let's check 3.7. Explain how businesses can apply transparency as a King's Code principle for good corporate governance. Okay, right. So now decisions or actions must be clear at all to all stakeholders. Also, staffing and other processes should be open and transparent. Auditing and other reports must be accurate or available to shareholders. So also, business deals should be conducted openly so that there's no hint or sign of dishonesty or corruption. The board of directors must report on both the negative and positive impact of the business on community or environment. Also, the board should ensure that companies' ethics are effectively implemented. Okay, right. Saying that decisions Decisions must be clear to all stakeholders. Okay, right. So now let's check out 3.8. So now 3.8 reads as follows. Advise business on the responsibilities of employees in promoting human health and safety in the workplace. So now in this regard, use prescribed safety equipment, report accidents to the employer by the end of the shift, also report unsafe or unhealthy working conditions to the relevant authorities. Also take reasonable care of their own safety, inform the employer of any illness that may affect the ability to work, or cooperate and comply with the rules and procedures. For a typical example, wear prescribed safety clothing. Okay, right. So now we are saying that workers should take care. Workers should take care of their health and safety at the workplace. And also report accidents to the employer by the end of the shift. Okay. And also send that use prescribed safety equipment. Prescribed safety equipment. Okay, right. So now let's move on to, we are done with our question 3, this side of the question paper. Then let's go to another question paper and go through question 3 of it as well. Okay, right. So now when we check our question 3, this side is also the same manner where we are expected to deal with the business roles. Okay, right. So now let's check 3.1. So now 3.1 reads as follows. Name any 2 human rights in the workplace. So now these 2 human rights in the workplace, they are as follows. We have privacy, we have dignity, we have equity, we have freedom of speech and expression. We also have information as well as safety, security, and protection of life. So now let's check 3.2, where we expected to outline the benefits of diversity in the workplace. So now one of the benefits of diversity in the workplace, diversity in the workforce improves morale or motivation. So now also a diversified workforce stimulates debate on new and improved ways of getting things done. And also employees value each other diversity and learn to connect or communicate across lines of differences. And as well as employees from different backgrounds can bring different perspectives to the business. So now also being peaceful of our differences or demonstrating diversity makes good business senses or improves profitability. So diverse businesses ensure that its policies or practices empower every employee to perform at his or her full potential. Okay, right. So now let's check the scenario in 3.3. So now 3.3 reads as follows. Sinclair Brakes. Sinclair Brakes specializes in the manufacturing of quality brakes. So now CB provides personal protective clothing to workers. So now the employees of ZB take care of their own health and safety when manufacturing breaks. They report all accidents that have occurred to the management by the end of the day. So now a question reads as follows. Quote, two responsibilities of the employees at ZB in promoting human health and safety in the workplace from the scenario above. Okay, right. So now let's go through this and check. This is our sentence 1. This is our sentence 2, and then this is our sentence 3. Okay. Then this is our sentence 4. So now remember, when you quote, you're expected to write a full sentence as it appears on the given set of scenarios. Okay, right. So now here we are actually going to check that the employees of ZB take care of their own health and safety when manufacturing breaks. So now this is one of the quote. It means that here we are going to quote sentence 2. Write it exactly the way it appears. And also we are going to write what we are also, no, this is going to be sentence 3. So now this is sentence 3. And also we take sentence 4. So now sentence 4 reads as follows. They report all accidents that have occurred to the management by the end of the day. Okay, right. So now let's check 3.3.2. Advise ZB on other responsibilities of employees in promoting human health and safety in the workplace. Okay, right. So now other responsibilities of the employees in promoting human health and safety in the workplace: they must use prescribed safety equipment, report unsafe working conditions to the relevant authorities or management, and also inform the employer of any illness that may affect the ability to work. So also cooperate and comply with the rules and procedures, for example, where prescribed safety clothing. Okay, right. So now we're saying that in this regard, they must actually cooperate and comply with the rules and procedures where they're expected to wear prescribed safety clothing or equipment. Okay, right. So now let's check 3.4. So now 3.4 reads as follows. Explain how abuse of work time as a type of unprofessional business practice poses challenges to businesses. So now this may actually pose a challenge. Why? Because it may result in many employees often abusing time. Abuse of work time could result in losing customers or not meeting the deadlines as workers. So now also wasting time costs the business money and affects productivity. So it means that effective customer services may not be rendered, resulting in a negative image of the business. Okay, right. So now let's check our 3.5. So now 3.5, you are expected to discuss the advantages of creative thinking in the workplace. So remember, we said to be creative in this regard, you should apply originality. You should try by all means to avoid using a routine in terms of a decision making, or using a routine in terms of weighing the alternatives and selecting the best alternative ever. Okay, right. So now we're saying that creativity may lead to new inventions, which improves the general standard of living. And also it stimulates initiative from employees or managers as they are continuously pushed out of their comfort zone. So now better or unique or unconventional idea solutions are generated. Also complex business problems may be solved. So productivity increases in this regard as management or employees may quickly generate multiple ideas, which utilizes time and money more effectively. So it means that in this regard, managers will be better leaders as they will be able to handle or manage changes positively and also in a creative manner. Okay, right. So now let's check our 3.6. It reads as follows. Read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Borehole tag. So now borehole tag intends to introduce a new electronic drilling system. They considered all the pros and cons for changing to the new system. BT also requested a panel of experts to do research on the challenges of this system. So now our 3.6.1 reads as follows. Identify two problem-solving techniques used by BT and modify your answer by quoting from the given set of scenario. Okay, right. So now it means in this regard, we have sentence 1, we also have sentence 2, and lastly, we have sentence 3. Okay, so now if you check our sentence, sentence 2, where it says they considered all the pros and cons for changing the new system. This is nothing but force field analysis. This is force field analysis approach. This is sentence 2. So now when we check our sentence 3, it says BT also requested a panel of experts to do research on their challenges of this. So now also it means that in this regard, this is going to be our Delphi technique. Grade 12, are you aware that most of these questions they look pretty similar to one another, and now it means that you should make sure that whenever you are dealing with this question 3, you master this analysis analysis techniques or analysis approaches. Know the approach in terms of the force field. Know the approach in terms of the Delphi. Know the approach in terms of the brainstorming. Know the approach in terms of the nominal groups and the likes. Okay, right. So now let's check 3.7. So now 3.7 reads as follows. Discuss the correct procedure to deal with grievances in the workplace. So now remember, the grievance in the workplace, or when we talk of this grievance in the workplace, it means that as an employee, you are not happy with how things are done at the workplace. Then the moment you are not happy on how things are done at the workplace, remember, you are not supposed to shout to your manager. You are not supposed to also utter out the words that are going to make your manager to be angry. But there are some guidelines that you should follow whenever you are not happy with the working conditions at any institutions that you are working for. So remember, respect should always be given, even though you want to raise out your grievances or the pain inside of you in line with the execution of your duties. Okay, right. So now we are saying that in this regard, the matter can be referred to the labor court on appeal if the employee is not satisfied with the decision taken by the CCMA. And also minutes of this meeting should be recorded, and the decision must be recorded on a formal grievance form. Also, top management should arrange a meeting with all relevant parties concerned. So also, should the employee not be satisfied, he or she could refer the matter to the higher level of management. A grievance hearing or meeting must be held with all relevant parties. Also, the employee must receive a written reply in response to the written grievance. The employee may move to a more formal process where the grievance must be lodged in writing or completes a grievance form. Okay. Right. So now let's check the issue of professionalism, responsible, ethic, and effective business practices. Okay, right. So now 3.8 reads as follows: suggest ways in which professionalism, responsible, ethical, and effective business practice should always be conducted. Okay, right. So now in this regard, mission statement should always include the values of equality or respect. Businesses should develop equity or equal programs so as to promote strategies to ensure that all employees are treated equally regardless of their rank at the workplace. So now treat workers with respect by recognizing work well done, the value of human capital, as well as planning should be done in a proper manner and put preventative measures in place. Okay, right. So now also they should engage in environmental awareness programs so as to refrain from polluting the environment, such as legally disposing of toxic waste. So now businesses in the same manner should take decisions and actions must be clear and transparent to all the stakeholders. So now should business be accountable, responsible for their decisions, actions, or patent rights? Okay, right, grade 12s. In this regard, we are done with question 3 from this question paper. So now let's move on to question 4s. Okay, right. So now we are on question 4. Okay, so now remember question 4 is based on miscellaneous topics. So now it means that question 4 caters for business ventures as well as business roles. So now it means in this regard, in order for you to master question 4, you should understand business roles as well as business ventures, and also the topics that appear under both business ventures and business roles. Okay, right. So now let's check 4.1. 4.1 reads as follows. Name any 4 examples of long-term insurance. So now one of the examples of long-term insurance, we have endowment policy, we have life cover policy, we have retirement annuity or pension fund or provident fund, we have disability policy, we have trauma insurance, we have funeral insurance, we have health insurance or medical aid. So now those are an example of what? An example of long-term insurance. So we are saying medical aid. You're also saying that disability policy, disability policy. Then we have funeral insurance, funeral insurance, and we have trauma insurance. Also have trauma insurance. Okay, right. So now let's move on to 4.2. Outline the advantages of an insurance. So now one of the advantages of an insurance is to transfer the risk from the business to an insurance company, and also protects businesses against dishonest employees, and also protect businesses against losses due to death of a debtor. Okay, right. So now we are saying that protects businesses against dishonest employees, dishonest employees, also protects businesses against losses due to death of a debtor, death of a debtor. Remember, 6 marks, 3 points. And also, life insurance can be taken on the life of partners in a partnership to prevent unexpected loss of capital. So businesses will be compensated for insurable losses. For typical example, destruction of a property through fire. Okay, right. So now let's check our 4.3. Read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Privesh presented his sales figures to various stakeholders during his presentation. He maintained eye contact with the audience. So Privesh stood up throughout the feedback session. He also kept the presentation short and simple. So now 4.3.1 code 2 vectors that Privesh considered while presenting. So now we have what? Let's check the sentences. We have sentence 1. We have sentence 2. We have sentence 3. And we also have sentence 4. Okay, right. So now he also kept the presentation short and simple. He also kept the presentation short and simple. Sentence 4, you write it exactly the way it is. So he maintained eye contact with the audience. He maintained eye contact with the audience. That is going to be sentence 2. So it means that when you are going to actually write these sentences full, not write S1, S2, S3, S4. Okay, right. So now let's check 4.3.2. Discuss other vectors that must be considered while doing the presentation. While you do the presentation, avoid hiding behind equipment. Be audible enough so that all the audience can hear each and every word that you utter out. Mention or show most important information first. Also, make sure that you establish credibility by introducing yourself as the presenter at the start of the presentation. Okay, right. So now you're saying that here you should make sure that you do what? You avoid hiding behind equipment. Avoid hiding behind equipment. Also, show most important information first. Show most important information first. Okay, so now let's check 4.4. So 4.4 reads as follows. Advise businesses on the advantages of a sole trader. So remember, sole trader is that gentleman who operates in business alone. He doesn't have any other advice from anyone. He's alone in the business. He enjoys his profits alone. He enjoys taking decisions alone. So now, one of the advantages is that owner makes all decisions alone. Owner requires little capital to start. All profits belong to the owner alone. Simple management structure. No legal processes and requirements. The assets of the business belong to the owner. There is personal encouragement and personal conduct between the owner and customers. Okay, right. So now you're saying that owner makes all decisions alone. And also, all profits belong to the owner. All profits belong to the owner. Okay, right. So now let's check out 4.3. So, 4.5. It reads as follows. Name any four types of difficult personalities that can be found in the workplace. So now there are different set of personalities that are available or present in different set of workplaces. One of the personalities that we have a complainer. People are always complaining at the workplace. We have undecisive. We have over agree. We have negativity. We have expect. We have quiet. We have aggressiveness and the likes. Complainer, expert, right? Negativity, aggressive, and the likes. So now outline, let's check out 4.6. 4.6 reads as follows. Outline the difference between ethical behavior and unethical behavior. So now let's check ethical behavior and professional behavior. Okay, right. So now, when we talk about ethical behavior, we refer to the principle of right and wrong or acceptable in the society. But professional behavior, what is right or wrong or acceptable in a business? What is right in the business? Acceptable? Principles of right? Principles of right in the society? Okay, right. So now let's check 4.7. It reads as follows. Explain the advantages of creative thinking in the workplace. So now one of the advantages of creative thinking in the workplace, complex business problems may be solved. It improves motivation among staff members. And also it actually provides better or unique solutions whenever there is a need for them to be generated. Okay. Complex business problems may be solved, improves motivation amongst staff members. Okay, right. So now let's check out 4.8. So 4.8 reads as follows. Vinicius Properties. Vinicius Properties has improved its image by undertaking corporate social responsibility. So their key focus areas include environment and community. So now VP also aims at contributing toward sustainable development of its immediate communities. So now 4.8.1 reads as follows. Identify two components of corporate social responsibility highlighted in the scenario above. So now this is nothing but environment. Environment. also advise VP on the negative impact of corporate social responsibility on business. So this one we have, okay, we have to identify two. So we have environment and community. Okay, right. So advise VP on the negative impact of corporate social responsibility on different set of businesses. Okay, right. So now businesses find it difficult to adhere to legislation governing corporate social investment. And also the detailed reports must be drawn up, which can be time consuming. And also most managers are not trained to handle social programs. Most managers not trained to handle social problems. And also we are saying that detailed reports must be drawn up which can be time consuming. Which is time consuming. Okay, right. So now, grade 12s, we are done with our question 4, this side of the question paper. Let's go and check another question 4 on another question paper. Okay, right. So now, remember, this are what miscellaneous topics. So now let's check our 4.1. So now 4.1 reads as follows. State any two leadership theories. So now two leadership theories that we can actually take into account in this regard. It's what is the light of situational leadership, transformational leadership, as well as leaders and followers. Okay, right. So now let's check out 4.2. So read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Kamesh Traders took out an insurance contract with Secure Insurer. So now KT was honest when entering into the contract by disclosing all the relevant facts. Kamesh also insured himself in the event of a loss of life. So now let's check out 4.2.1. 4.2.1 reads as follows. Identify two principles of insurance applicable to KT. Modify your answer by quoting from the scenario above. Okay, right. So now we have sentence 1. We have sentence 2. Okay, then we have sentence 3. Okay, right. So now when we quote here, we see that KT was honest when entering into the contract. KT was honest when entering into the contract, which is sentence 2. Remember, you write up the full sentence, it appears. So now this is nothing but at most good faith. At most good faith. Right. So now also it actually says camels, which is number 3, sentence number 3, said it addresses the issue of the security, where it says Kamesh also insured himself in the event of a loss of a life. Okay, right. So now let's move on to the next question, which is 4.3. So now 4.3 reads as follows. Discuss vectors that must be considered when preparing for a presentation. So when preparing for a presentation, the presenter should establish a clear purpose and maintain points of the presentation. Also, information presented should be relevant and accurate. So fully conversant with the content or objective of the presentation. And also, they should create visual aids that will consolidate the information or facts to be conveyed to the audience or to be given to the audience. Okay, right. So now let's check our 4.4. So now our 4.4 reads as follow. Evaluate the impact of fixed deposits as a form of investment. So now, the fact that the question only expects you to give the impact. So in this regard, you are expected to give both negative and positive. So now, regardless whether you see now you're faced with how many marks? 6 marks. So now you can just give 2 marks for positive and 1 point for negative, or 2 points for negative and 1 point for negative, as long as you have mixed the impacts of a positive and negative together. Then in that regard, you are going to score yourself full marks. Okay, right. So now we are saying that interest is earned at fixed rate regardless of changes in the economic climate. And also the period of investment can be over a short, medium, or long term. So investors can choose the investment period that suits them. So now in this regard, it means that the higher the principal amount, the longer the investment period, the higher the interest rate offered by financial institution. So now also the investor cannot withdraw their funds before the maturity date, meaning the investor can be penalized for any yearly withdrawals. Low returns compared to other investment may not outperform the effect of inflation over the longer period of time. Okay, right. So now let's move on to 4.3. So now 4.3 reads as follows: list any two what the King Code principles for corporate governance. So now King's Code principle for corporate governance, we have transparency, we have accountability, as well as responsibility. Okay, right. So now let's check our 4.6, which is in line with the scenario. Read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Mega manufacturers MM Manufacturers specializes in the manufacturing of school shoes. So MM provides adult basic education. They also invest in job creation projects in their community. MM strives for maintain a balance between the triple bottom line elements. So now our 4.6.1 reads as follows. Quote 2 examples of corporate social investment projects in the scenario above. So now if you check here, grade 12, we have sentence 1, we have sentence 2, we have sentence 3, and then also sentence 4. So now if you check, we're saying that MM provides adult basic education. MM provides adult basic education. This is one of the examples of CSI. So meaning now our sentence 2 addresses the issue of CSI. And also they also invest in job creation projects in their communities. They also invest in the job creation project in their communities, meaning also we are going to quote sentence number 3. And remember, you write the full sentence as it appears in the scenario. You don't add, you don't subtract. Okay, guys. Now let's move on to 4.6.2. 4.6.2 reads as follows. Explain the relationship between social responsibility and triple line bottom. Okay, right. Triple line bottom means that businesses should not only focus on profit or change or charge higher prices, but also they should invest in corporate social investment project. I'm saying that triple line bottom means that businesses should not only focus on profit or charge higher prices, but they should also invest in corporate social investment project. In the same manner, businesses should not make a profit at the expense of its community. Yes, we know some of the businesses, you find that they'll be fighting to collect large amount of profits while they cause pollution behind, or they just leave the community sinking in different set of social or socio-economic issues, conditions. Okay, right. So now let's check our 4.7. So discuss how businesses could deal with poverty as a diversity issue in the workplace. Okay, right. Remember, you are poor only when you can't afford to solve basic needs. Okay, right. So now in this regard, businesses should employ people from different socioeconomic backgrounds or status. Give what previously disadvantaged individuals a chance actually to be educated by incorporating other basic education and training, which is added into training programs of the business, and also train all employees so that they can be able to deal with retrenchment. Reward employees for service well rendered. Ensure that the prices of our products are affordable for the identified consumer market, and make sure that sponsor learnerships for unemployed people or use grants received from the sectors to train more unemployed people from different set of local communities. Okay, right, great talks. So now let's move on to 4.8. So now 4.8 reads as follows. Recommend ways in which businesses can create an environment that promotes creative thinking. Okay, right. So now, remember, when you talk of creative thinking avoid always copying people's approach. Avoid always being conventional. We expect you to be unconventional. We expect you not to practice routines whenever you solve problems, because some people, whenever they solve problems, they always use the same routine. You end up it ends up being monotonous or out of fashion, because each and every situation, each and every problem, each and every challenge they come across, instead of applying originality in terms of what in terms of the approaches, now they do what? They just go copy how other people did solve those particular problems, which is totally bad. Okay, right. So now, recommend ways in which businesses can create an environment that promotes creative thinking. So it means that they should put what the emphasis, or they must emphasize the importance of creative thinking at the workplace to their staff members, so as to make sure that what all these employees can hear whatsoever the management want them to hear, and the management in the same manner can also hear whatsoever the staff members are expecting the managers to hear. Okay, right. Also, they must encourage alternative ways of working or doing. Also, they must respond enthusiastically to all ideas and never let anyone feel less important. Place suggestion boxes around the workplace and keep communication channels open for the new ideas. Train staff in innovative techniques or creative problem solving skills, or mind mapping, or lateral thinking. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's move on to section C. So now section C, if you check, we are going to discuss an essay under investment. So now this investment, we are going to check securities or shareholding. So now grade 12s, remember, whenever you are given an essay under business studies, it is very, very simple, because all of these bullets that are given are the ones that are going to build your body. Yours is to only come up with an introduction of 2 marks, and also you must come up with a conclusion of 2 marks. So now remember, whenever you are coming up with introduction, whatsoever that you are writing on your introduction should be should link with with the topic and study. For typical example, we are dealing with what? We are dealing with investment securities. So now when you write your introduction, make sure that whatsoever that you write here links to what? It links to investment securities. Okay, right. So now businesses invest in a variety of shares, including ordinary and preference shares for future growth. So some businesses consider investment vectors before investing their surplus funds in unit trusts. So therefore, businesses must be aware of the functions of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Okay, right. So now let's check how best we can write our introduction under this business securities. Our introduction can go as follow: various types of shares over different types of dividends and risks associated with them. And also, investors have a range of investment opportunities to choose from. So now those are the two bullets or the 2 points that can earn you 2 marks under introduction. So now remember, when we are dealing with the main body, each and every subheading should be indicated, and these subheadings should also be underlined for neatness purposes. Okay, right. So now bullet number 1, outline the difference between ordinary shares and then preference shares. So remember, preference shares are those shareholders that have invested larger sums of money into the business. But while we talk of the ordinary shareholders, these are those gentlemen or ladies that invested a small amount of money in the business. That is why they are not preferred, but they are being considered as people that are just ordinary. Okay, right. So now ordinary shares only receive dividends when profit is made. But some of these under preference shares, some of these types of shares receive dividends regardless of profit made. So now why are ordinary shares not receiving profits? Not receiving dividends even though the profit is made? Or why are they not receiving our dividends if the company doesn't make profit? Is because they have invested or put in less amount of money in the business. But when it comes to preference shareholders, they are going to earn their dividends regardless whether a business is generating profit or not. Why? Because they are mostly preferred as they have invested large sum of money into the business. Okay, right. So now under ordinary shares, normally the higher the profit, the higher the dividend. But under this what preference shares, so now preference shareholding, their dividends is fixed. Whether the business is making profit or not, they're supposed to get their dividends or be entitled to their dividends. So now also under ordinary shares or shareholding, shareholders are the last to be paid if the company is declared liquidated. Yes, but under preference shareholders have preferred claim on company assets in the event of liquidation. What does it mean? It means that if the company is not making profit, as an ordinary shareholder, you can go home with nothing. But now as a preference shareholder, if the company is not making profits, then you can be entitled to own some of the company assets. You may find that they can just give you a vehicle, they can just give you a house for the company, or they can actually maybe give you some of the tools and equipment for that particular company. Okay, right. So now let's check the second bullet. So second bullet is where we say explain any 3 vectors that could be considered when making an investment decision. Okay, when making an investment decision, you should make sure that you take into account the return on investment. So now when taking account the return on investment, it means that there will be a direct link between a risk and a return. And it means that the net after tax return should be higher than the inflation rate. Okay, right. So now let's move on to another what vector that should be considered is a risk. It's a risk. Shares with higher risk have a greater potential for higher returns. So now meaning that the investment in ordinary shares have the higher risk, as the investor may lose their part of the investment when the company is liquidated. Okay, right. So now let's move on to another vector where we have investment term or investment period. It can be short, medium, and long term. So meaning that the investment period would depend on an investor's personal needs. Okay, right. So now let's check the inflation rate. So now under the inflation rate, then what the higher the inflation rate, the lower the purchasing power of money. Investors seek investment which the return of investment is higher than inflation rate. Okay, right. So now let's check taxation. It means that a good investment will produce good what after tax returns. So meaning that different tax rates are applicable for each form of investment. Okay, right. So now let's check liquidity. So now under liquidity, an amount could be invested in a type of investment that can easily be converted to cash, meaning that it is used to describe the ease and the speed which investors can convert an investment into cash. Okay, right. So now, creators, let's move on to another bullet, which is bullet the bullet where we are expected to discuss the impact of our unit trust as form of investment. Okay, right. So now, easy to cash in when an investor needs money. A small amount can be invested per month. Generally, beats inflation on medium term. So now also managed by what? By a fund manager who buys shares on stock exchange or Johannesburg security exchange. Okay, right. So now also we are saying that share price may fluctuate, meaning it is not a good option for people who want to avoid risk at all costs. If blue chip companies do not continue on their growth path, then the growth of unit trust will also be affected, meaning it will not render the expected returns. Okay, right. So now bid prices that are usually higher than the ask price makes the investment less liquid. Okay, right. So now let's check the last bullet where it says advise the businesses on the functions of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. So now we are saying that one of the functions is that it serves as a barometer or the indicator of economic conditions in South Africa. So also it gives investors informed by publishing share price daily. So meaning acts as a link between investors and public companies. Shares are valued and assessed by experts, and also venture capital market is made possible on the open market. So strict investment rules ensure a disciplined or ordered market for securities. Okay. Right. So now let's check how best we can conclude this. A better understanding of different types of shares may enable investors to choose the best type of investment. Right. After considering the various investment vectors, investors can make a calculated decision. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's move on to the essay in line with team performance and conflict management. Okay, right. So conflicts can arise when different people are working together. Therefore, business must be able to handle conflict. So businesses must familiarize themselves with the stages of team development and also find ways to deal with difficult employees. Write an essay on team performance and conflict management in which you include the following aspects. Outline the causes of conflict, also explain how businesses could handle conflict in the workplace, discuss 3 stages of team development, also suggest different ways in which businesses can deal with difficult employees. Remember, you should have your own introduction of 2 marks and also have your own conclusion of 2 marks. Okay, right. So now let's check how best you can go through this. So now under our introduction, our introduction, we are actually going to say that what teams go through different stages of development that must be managed carefully. Right. So conflict is sometimes necessary for people to resolve differences and focus on key objectives. Okay, right. So now let's check on our body the causes of conflict. Okay, so one of the causes of conflict is what conflict is lack of proper communication between management and workers. Ignoring rules or procedures may result in disagreement and conflict. Management and workers have different personalities or backgrounds, different values or levels of knowledge or skills or experience of managers or workers. Lack of recognition for good work, where a manager may not show appreciation for extra hours worked to meet deadlines. Also, unfair disciplinary procedures as favoritism or nepotism. Unrealistic deadlines or heavy workloads lead to stress resulting in conflict. Okay, right. So now let's check how best we can explain how businesses could handle conflict in the workplace. Okay, right. So now for businesses to handle conflict at the workplace, they must acknowledge that there is a conflict in the workplace, identify the cause of conflict, arrange time and place for negotiations where all employees involved are present, arrange a meeting between conflicting employees or employers. So now each party has the opportunity to express his or her own opinions or feelings. Conflicting parties may recognize that their views are different during the meeting. Blaming shift should be avoided and a joint effort should be made. So direct conflicting parties towards focusing on solutions. It has brainstorm possible ways of resolving the conflict. Okay, right. So now let's check what bullet number 3 discuss 3 stages of team development. So now team development, we have forming stage, we have storming, norming, performing, and training. Okay, so now under forming, so individuals gather information and impressions about each other and the scope of task and how to approach it. Okay, right. So now let's check under the issue of storming. Storming, teams go through a period of unease or conflict after formation. So now let's check norming. Teams members come to an agreement and reach a consensus. So now let's check performing or working as a team towards a goal. Team members are aware of strategies and aims of the team. Okay, right. So now let's check our training stage or morning stage. So now the focus is on completion of the task, ending the project. Okay, right. So now let's check what ways in which businesses can deal with different employees in the workplace. Okay, right. So now get perspective from others who have experienced the same kind of situation to be able to understand employees. Act proactively, if possible, as a staff or as a personal problem, part of manager's responsibility. Ask someone in authority for the input into the situation. Identify the type of personality which is creating the problem. Make intentions and reasons for action known so that difficult person or people feel at ease. Meet privately with difficult employees so that there are no these directions are from other employees or issues. Employees should be told what specific behaviors are acceptable by giving details about what is wrong or unacceptable. So now also the deadline should be set for improving bad or difficult behavior. Guidelines for improvement should be given. Okay, right. So now let's check how best we can conclude this essay. So concluding this essay, we are actually going to share that it is important that businesses understand the stages of team development so that they are able to manage conflict effectively. And also businesses should deal with difficult employees swiftly and find better ways to manage difficult employees. Okay, right. So now grade 12 at this juncture, we are actually done with this question 6 in this paper. So now let's focus on section C and the other paper. Okay, right. So now section C under this paper is in line with what? It is in line with presentation and data response, while question 6 is in line with what? Team performance and conflict management. I think this one, question 6, is more or less the same with the previous question that we dealt with. Okay, right. So now let's check here. So now remember, this built what it builds your own body. So you must come up with introduction of 2 marks and then conclusion of 2 marks. Okay, right. So now also under our last question, also you must provide with introduction of 2 marks and conclusion of 2 marks. So now bear in mind that this one, you should link to the what should link to the concept under study. Then here as a conclusion, you should always write your own opinion. And when you write your own opinion, make sure that you avoid repeating the entire, as there's no need for actually repeating. Okay, right. So now let's check our question 5 under this paper. Okay, right. So now our question 5 under this paper, it is in line with our presentation. And of all the essays, presentation is one of the essays that is very easy to manage or very easy to complete. So now under our introduction, we can actually say that before the actual presentation, preparations are very important in order to have a detailed, audience and oriented and informative presentation, meaning that creativity should be encouraged when designing a multimedia presentation so as to attract the attention of the targeted audience. Okay, right. So now grade 12, let's check our body. So now our body, the first bullet says outline vectors that must be considered when preparing for a presentation. Okay, so now in preparing for a presentation, be clear about the purpose or the intentions or the objectives of the presentation. Ensure that the main aims captured in the introduction is actually of the great importance. Include only the information that is important and reliable in your presentation. Familiarize yourself with the content of the presentation so as to ensure a smooth flow of the presentation. Be familiar with the background of your audience so that your presentation speaks to their area of interest. Okay, right. So now let's check another bullet where we have to explain aspects that must be considered when designing a multimedia presentation. Okay, right. So now let's check the aspects that should be considered whenever you are designing a multimedia presentation. Okay, right. So now start your slides with the text and a heading. Contrast the color of your text with the color of the background. Avoid using a text that is not legible and or a font size that is too small or very, very small to an extent that no one can easily read it or people struggle to read it. Include appropriate graphics to complement text on slides. Quick access to other files or documents or video must be enabled. So also structure the information on your slides in a logical sequence, which will allow your audience or the stakeholders to follow your presentation without any form of struggle. Okay, right. So now let's check what bullet number 3, discuss the impact of following types of visual aids. So now we are going to discuss the issues of data projector or PowerPoint. So now one of the advantages is that graphic programs have the capacity to convey ideas and support what the presenter says. So now also video clips can provide variety and capture the attention of the audience. So now the variation of color or background or sound immediately captures the attention of the audience and retain their interest throughout the presentation. So the slides used to make complement the presentation or summarize the objective of the presentation. So now also you can actually see that unable to show slides without electricity or data projector, because normally when you're using a data projector, you should always be having electricity or a generator. So it means that the moment there's no electricity or you don't have a generator, then it's going to be a challenge for you to administer your presentation. Okay, right. So now also the use of data projector is not recommended if the stakeholder or audience has a visual or sound problems, because there are those people who are having a problem with a sound. So now the moment you use a projector, it means that they are not going to easily comprehend, as they are going to be negatively affected during the process of the presentation. Okay, right. So now let's check the handouts. So now handouts, notes must be compared with electronic slides to validate the accuracy, as well as extra information where we have contact details or price lists may be handed out to promote the services of the business. Okay, right. So now as it only summarizes key information, some details might be lost or omitted. So meaning that the cost of printing is very high and hard copies may be easily misplaced. Okay, right. So now let's check the last bullet, where we're supposed to advise the presenter on the areas for improvement in the next presentation. So now let's check what are the areas of what improvement in the next presentation. The presenter should revise objectives that were not achieved, infuse humor at the appropriate times in your presentation. Always be prepared to update or keep the information relevant. Reflect on any problem or criticism and avoid it in future presentation. So now reflect on the time or length of the presentation so as to add or remove content. So now reflect on the logical flow of format or slides or application of visual aids. Okay, right. So now let's check how best we can conclude this essay. So now presenters must have necessary skills and knowledge of designing an effective multimedia presentation. So it means that presenters must have necessary skills and knowledge of designing an effective presentation. Okay, right. So now let's move on to question 6. So now question 6 is in line with team performance and conflict management. So if you still remember, in a previous paper, we discussed the issue of team performance and conflict management. Okay, for introduction, we are going to say that successful team contribute positively towards the growth and stability of the business. And also you are saying that conflict forces businesses to follow necessary steps for specific resolution. So now it means that in this regard, we are done with our introduction. So now let's check what our first bullet, where we're supposed to outline the characteristics of successful team performance. So now successful teams normally share a common goal, as team members are part of the process of setting goal for the group. There is a climate of respect, trust, and honesty. Successful teams have sound intra-team relations. So now teams value the contributions of individual members and reach consensus on differences. So many team members enjoy open communication and deal with items of conflict immediately. Meaning teams are accountable and members know the time frame for achieving their goals. So now teams pay attention to the needs of the individual team members. Okay, so now let's check bullet number 2. So now bullet number 2 is supposed to explain any 3 stages of team development. So now stage of team development, we have forming stage, where individuals gather information and impressions about each other and the scope of the task and how to approach it. So also teams are comfortable and polite with each other during this stage. Okay, right. So now let's move on to another team. What as team stage? We have storming, so where teams go through a period of unease and conflict formation. We also have another step or stage as norming, where team members come to an agreement and reach consensus. So we also have performing, where team members are aware of strategies and aims of the team. So now lastly, we have adrenaline harmony, where they focus on completion of the task on ending a specific project. Okay, right. So now let's check let's check the ways in which businesses can handle conflict in the workplace. So now, guys, if you still remember, this is just a repetition of whatsoever essay that we dealt with in a previous paper. So now let's check also the correct procedure to deal with grievance. So now also this one, we normally we actually covered it along the paper. So now the conclusion: businesses must use the characteristics of successful team performance when evaluating their teams. So it is advisable that businesses must take note of the stages involved in team development in order to guide and support their team members. So now grade 12.